Welcome, everyone, to another podcast. Today's special guest is we have Katrina Scullion, who's a soprano, beautiful soprano as well. And my co host again today will be Amy Sawyer, all the way from Norway.
Hi
Hi,
everyone.
everyone.
Welcome everyone to another podcast. Today we have um, the incredible honor of speaking with Katrina Scullion, a highly accomplished and sought after soprano soloist with an extensive and versatile performance background. From touring with the acclaimed PBS show Celtic Woman to captivating audiences in prestigious venues like Radio City Music Hall. Oh my goodness! And the Greek theater, Katrina's journey's world of classical and operatic music has nothing short of extraordinary. She has performed as a soloist in renowned groups like Michael McGlynn's Anuna and North Dublin Opera. She also has on iconic roles in operatic productions such as The Magic Flute and I'm not sure Dido of the Aninas. Join us as we dive into the inspiring career of this remarkable artist. Welcome, Katrina. It's so lovely to have you on.
It's so lovely to talk to you finally, Amy. Thanks for having me.
I know we've been chatting so much online the last few days.
Yeah. Amy is so excited, and she's the perfect co-host for today. Katrina, can you tell us about your early beginnings in music and what inspired you to pursue a career as a soprano soloist?
Well, I started out at the tender age of 3 doing Irish dancing, and it's funny. I have a 2-year-old little girl. I have a 5-year-old boy and a 2-year-old little girl, and my little girl is gung ho for ballet. She dances around the place. But that's what started me off. I started off Irish dancing at 3, and then I learned the piano, the flute, dabbled a bit with the guitar. But I always wanted to sing. I always wanted to sing, and I had a very light, high voice when I was growing up, and my dad introduced me to kind of the musicals Les Mis and Phantom of the Opera, and I loved classical music. So I used to kind of pretend sing opera around the house, which drove my parents mad. I knew I always wanted to pursue that. So I guess I started to pay for my own singing lessons. I got a part-time job and started to pay for my own singing lessons when I was um, about 16, and that kind of started the singing bug. And That's kind of really it. I came to Dublin to pursue a degree in music, and the rest, as they say, is kind of history.
So I know you worked with um, Katerina Grimes, who's an incredible pianist, but you've also worked with um, a fellow classical crossover artist, Emer Barry, in Voices of Erin. How did that come to be?
So myself and Emer lived together a number of years ago. We met doing, well, I was doing Opera Ireland at the time, and we met through some mutual friends. And Emer was looking for a flatmate, and moved in with her, and we became the best of friends. Emer's still one of my closest friends, and yeah, so we had lots of musical adventures together when we were living together. We did a lot of singing together, and you know, arranging songs and things like that. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, Emer's wonderful. She's super talented and a gorgeous person as well. So very lucky to have her as a friend.
Is it very easy to be in sync when you're singing together?
Oh, it is with Emer. Yeah, absolutely. We just blend so well together. We love singing together. So yeah, it's yeah, I think if you have kind of classical training and you kind of know what to expect there, it's, it is easy enough, I suppose, to work with other singers. But I think you will always have certain people like Emer and Katrina, of course, that you gravitate towards, and you really there's an extra spark when you perform together. So that's definitely the case with Emer and Katrina. Katrina is she's like a sister to me. I absolutely adore her, and we adore performing together. It's a real, and I say this at every concert we do, it's a real privilege for me to perform with her. She just has music flowing through her, and it's a real privilege to be in that space. Never mind performing with her at the same time.
Are there any like specific voices, sopranos or maybe tenors or mezzo sopranos or any of those high contraltos? Were there just any person specifically that you sang with that didn't really match your vocal style, and you just couldn't really sing with them, or do you just like singing with everyone that matches?
I don't know. I think I personally take on every opportunity to perform as such a privilege. So, you know, I have had situations before where I've been asked to sing maybe pieces that I wouldn't be as comfortable with. Or sometimes it's part of what I do. I sometimes have to sing at funeral masses and things, and occasionally I've been asked to sing with a family member, do a duet or something. And I mean, in those circumstances, I'm not the soloist, and it's not my job to stand out and be heard. It's so I take every opportunity to perform as a privilege. So I think, um, you're always performing for your audience, be that in a church or in a concert hall, or on a screen, and I think you owe it to your audience to try and create that conversation with the other instrumentalist or the other performer or the other singer, so that it creates something that's enjoyable for the audience, or that the audience feel comfortable listening to it. So, yeah, I mean, certainly, you do come across scenarios where you might not be entirely comfortable or entirely kind of in your zone, but you just make it work.
What were the challenges and rewards of transitioning from choir performances to solo engagements in the operatic sphere?
So yeah, I always had the little inner diva in me, I suppose. And I find it quite difficult actually to blend in a choir. It took me quite a long time to find my vocal identity, because my voice was bigger in the operatic sense. So I find when I was singing in choirs, I was pulling back, I was holding back, um, and I felt quite inhibited. So um, I for being able to kind of have that fullness of expression and be able to kind of express myself. Um, I get that when I sing solo. I didn't get the same feeling of that when I sang in a choir. I mean, of course, I got to sing beautiful music, but I feel ultimately for me, as a form of self-expression, um, I, I feel more at home singing as a soloist.
So I love your rendition of McGillimar. It's so good. Which I found is sung in Gaelic, which is the language that's not really used too much anymore. Um, but I also found out it was used in Ireland as well. I mean, and Scotland.
They're actually
um,
different. They're actually different languages, Amy. So you have
yeah,
so Scots Gaelic it's a language in and of itself, and in Ireland we use Gaelga Irish, yeah. So it is a common misconception, and you do hear people kind of saying that, but it's
yes. Mhm.
Gaelga is specifically Irish, and Gaelic is Scots, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember. I don't know if you're familiar with Saoirse Ronan. She's an actress. She's from Ireland,
Saoirse.
and Saoirse, yeah, Saoirse, and my favorite actress. And she was on the show once, and people were wondering, okay, there's certain Irish words we have no idea how to pronounce. And she's talking about not only people pronouncing her name Saoirse, like Saoirse, Saoirse, Sarisi, and all this stuff. And some of the words like Owen, for instance, like we spell it Owen, but you spell it Ogwhgan or something like that. And
So there's
Gaelic is a very interesting question. It's a very interesting language.
Yeah, there's a couple of different spellings for Owen. Eoin would be a common one, and
Yeah.
Eoghan is the other one. But even my own name, so in my mum's class in school, there was a girl called Katrina with an O in her name, Catriona, and uh, people kept calling her Catriona. So my mum loved the name, but she spelt mine Catrina with no O. But because I'm living in Dublin, people spell my name actually the Irish way, which is Catriona with a couple of fathers in there as well, a couple of little accent marks as well. So I it's very interesting. There are so many different nuances to the Irish language, and my little fella is learning it himself in school at the moment. And the little bit of the language that I do have, I would have learned up north, which is a different dialect as well. So it is a tricky language, but a beautiful one, very poetic one. And but there's some difficult sounds in there.
Mm.
Yeah, so Saoirse Ronan, I can imagine how frustrating that must be for her that she gets called a lot of different things.
Yeah. Um, I want to reiterate. So that was Mo Gailey Mir. How do you pronounce that?
Machilamar.
Mo Gellamar. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
It
Amy
doesn't
got
even
it
look
right.
like that. Because when you read it, it's like Mo Gailey Mir. Wow.
Yeah,
Gaelic's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. It is.
Gaelic is
Yeah,
so
it's
interesting.
it's a lot to do with the fada as well, which has the little accent on the that changes the shape of the vowel, like it would in French or other languages. You get that as well. So yeah, that's important. The fada is very important.
Um, could you talk about your experience performing with Michael McGlynn's Anuna and how it influenced your career?
Sure. My goodness. So um, I think I've told this story a few times before now publicly, but so when I was growing up, I mean, we were all just absolutely entranced by Riverdance. So that was the first kind of time that we'd kind of been introduced to Nuna. And when I moved to Dublin, they had uh, Ireland was hosting the Special Olympics, and they were searching for a soloist to sing. For the opening ceremony of the Special Olympics, they were going to do Riverdance for it. So they they held soloist auditions, and I went along to that, and I actually met Lynn Hillary in the queue, and we became friends. And Lynn was in Anuna at the time, so of course I knew who Anuna was, but she convinced me to go and audition and sing for Michael, and I did, and I ended up spending 4 years in the group. I mean, it was just incredible. The music is, I mean, it's ethereal. It's out of this world, and as a musician, it really challenges your challenges your sensibilities as a musician as well. Because certainly in my case, I would have known all of the lines, and Michael would have pointed at me in any rehearsal and said, "Okay, you're singing alto two on that. You're singing alto one on that. You're singing soprano one or soprano two, and sometimes soprano three." So you had to know all of the lines. You had to have that sense of musicality, how they fit together, be able to hold your line. So there was a huge sense of achievement as a musician, but just to be able to stand in the center of that incredible sound, and to sing it was magical. I got to tour a little bit in Germany and the UK, went to Holland, um, went to Newfoundland, did some recording with them, a lot of kind of corporate work. I sang solo in the Grand Opera House in Belfast, kind of not too far from my hometown. So that was all incredible. It was a wonderful experience, a really, truly wonderful experience.
One of the most wonderful experiences I had was finally seeing the Tosca. And I haven't seen Turndot yet because that's got the great song Nessun Dorma. But Tosca was. I'm watching all the actors and the actresses play in there, and I'm like, wow, that Italian language. Oh, that's. I can imagine. And they have to go on there so many, like 20, 30 times sometimes. And there must have been a time like when you were on, and it's pronounced Anuna?
Anuna.
Anuna. How many times were you on it? Like, how many times did you have to perform before you said, okay, I'm sick of it. I want to move on?
Oh gosh, no. I mean, I was never sick of it. It was. even to this day, when I hear the music on the radio, I still get tingles down my spine, and I think, my goodness, I can't believe that I had the privilege to be a part of that. I mean, I really believe Michael is a genius. His music is incredible, and it was a real privilege for me to be a part of the group. I never ever got that feeling of being sick of it. I suppose when I moved on, I just, it was time for me to kind of move on. And then, very quickly after that, I got asked to join the Aintis choir for Celtic Women. So that was another different experience. But no, I always will cherish the time that I spent in Anuna. And apart from anything else, to have the experience of, um, you know, working in the corporate arena, to get that experience of stagecraft, how to conduct yourself, how to hold yourself, in performance, how to work with other singers. It was a very valuable experience for me as a young singer, to have been a part of the group as well.
You ever thought of undertaking Christina Denise in Phantom of the Opera?
Oh, Christine Daae.
Yeah,
I'm
Christine
I'm a
Denise.
little too old for that now. I think that ship has sailed. Um,
No.
no, I think so. But I mean, when I was younger, something like that would have been my dream role. But uh, musical theater is a different beast, and it's very difficult to kind of transition between kind of musical theater, classical crossover, kind of opera, to be, musical theater is, you have to be very, very dedicated in that field. Um so I think that ship has sailed for me. I'm happy to do concert performances where I might get to, perform a small bit of a role, and I do frequently actually sing "Think of Me" in concerts. But yeah, would that and Maria, West Side Story, and Maria and the Sound of Music would all have been dream roles of mine. But um, that's not to be. In concert maybe, but not on the West End.
What's the ultimate? What's the ultimate role you would like to take on?
Do you know where I am in my life right now? I have two beautiful children. I'm very blessed to be a full time musician. And I teach. I perform. I do my church work. I have my concert work and everything else. So um, I would love to grow that. I would love to do a few concerts abroad. That's, myself and Katrina have plans for that and are looking into that. Certainly, we'd like to do a little bit of maybe some recital work abroad would be wonderful. That would certainly be on my list of things to do. Yeah, that would kind of be the next goal for us both, I think.
You did mention in your interview with Mary just that you toured with Celtic Women. How did that come to be?
So again, I guess from the Anuna connection, they were auditioning for the Aintis choir, which is, of course, you have we call them the girls, the soloists that kind of stood out front, and then there was the Aintis choir, which was, I think there were four of us women and four men, and we sang in behind and kind of supported them, but we were on stage the whole time with them. So there was an audition for alto one in the Intis choir, and I went okay, and I went along, and I did it. I actually sang "You Raise Me Up," I think, for the audition, and they said, "Yeah, we'd be delighted to have you." So I was thrilled. It was the most incredible experience. I mean, I got to see the States. I got to see. We did 111 dates in 3.5 months. So I got to see so much of the States. I got to sing
Wow.
in Radio City. I got to sing in the Greek Theatre. Got to
Mhm.
see loads of different places. Got to visit Graceland. I mean, it was incredible. I didn't get to see Boston, and I didn't get to see. There were two places that I really wanted to see that were on my list. Boston was one of them, and New Orleans was another. But we did get to see LA and Chicago. I loved Chicago and Seattle.
Nice.
It was incredible. It really was. And again, like, just to be a part of that whole experience. Now, I mean, sometimes we'd do a show, we had sleeper buses. We'd get on the sleeper bus and we'd go through the night, maybe to the next place. And, um, that after after a while that became a little bit tiresome, especially if you weren't sleeping. But I mean, the whole experience was phenomenal. Wonderful, wonderful life experience to have, and everyone involved in it was just so lovely. Um, Audiences were incredible, and to be able to say that you've sung in Radio City and Greek Theatre in LA is just amazing. So it's that's how it came about, and it was just a wonderful experience. Loved it.
That that's quite many experiences you're undertaking, Katrina. You've taken on quite a variety of operatic roles. Which role do you think was your favorite to perform, and why is that?
But that's an interesting one now. Gosh, do you know, like I adore Puccini. I adore Puccini. I've never had the opportunity to perform a full Puccini role. I've done excerpts in concert, but operatic role I really enjoyed. Uh, I'm just trying to think of the last one that I did, Orfeo in Eurydice. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. That was very interesting and a little bit out of my comfort zone because it was Baroque music. But yeah, I think Eurydice and Orfeo in Eurydice was one of my favorite to perform.
Wow. Uh, how do you prepare for performance, like both mentally and physically? Like, what do you do before you go on to perform? Like, what are the rituals? What do you drink? What do you do with your voice so that you don't go on stage and suddenly you're like, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's the technique carries you through a lot. So the years of training kind of set you up for it, which is what I always tell my students. A lot of them preparing for end of school exams, end of college exams, and I kind of say to them, the technique will carry you through because inevitably you never know what's going to happen if you're going to be sick, if you're going to be stressed, if you haven't slept, especially with two smallies in the house. So yeah, it's technique. It's warming up correctly, being careful with your voice, not shouting at your youngsters. um, you know, I try not to eat too much dairy before I sing directly before I would do a concert or anything. I try not to have a big heavy meal just so that you're not feeling full and sluggish. And otherwise, I suppose common sense prevails a lot. It would be the same as I suppose an athlete going for a runner going for a big run or whatever. I suppose the rules would be the same, really. You want to make sure that your body's working, in the most effective way. So you try not to fill it full of, a big feed of food or, eat things that are going to leave you feeling sluggish or whatever. So it's the same thing because a few years ago I did a little kind of article for a lifestyle page in a newspaper, and I said then, and I still firmly believe it, that you know we are athletes as singers, and
Hmm.
essentially we have to train in that way. We have to be very careful with our instruments, and in order to do that we need to make sure that our bodies are working effectively as well. So yeah, I'm always very mindful in the lead up to a big performance that I'm trying to be careful with myself, my mindfulness, and my body health as well.
And basically, you can't really drink anything like dairy or like I remember when I was singing, I sang a few, and it's like, okay, let me have my pizza first. And then when you start singing, you got like phlegm. I'm like, okay, I got a vibrato here, but it's not the one I was. So and I learned not to eat pizza or lasagna or any dairy before I sing. Do it after you sing. I've learned my lesson, but boy,
That's the
yeah.
So, you've had this hashtag for a while called Sunday Style, where you post off your fashion. But how did that come to be?
How did it come to be? So
Yeah.
yeah, so it came to be during the lockdown, during COVID. So as a church musician, they were giving special amnesty to anyone that was involved in community work during the lockdown. If you had a letter that you could participate in your community work, if it was to further the community or kind of lift the spirits of the community. So I'm the resident cantor in a church in Ballsbridge. As you know, you hear me talking about it a lot, St Mary's, Haddington Road. And I had a letter to be able to go and sing at mass. So I still do. I said earlier, I consider it such a privilege to be able to sing, publicly. And I consider it my ministry. That's, we talk about ministry in the church, and music is mine. So I consider it such a privilege, and especially during COVID, to be able to go in to sing at mass when everybody else was stuck at home. So I started dressing up. Then I always dress up anyway, but it's just my personal style. I really took it to the next level for singing at mass, because I knew that people would be watching in on the webcam. So that's when it started, and honestly, I mean, I couldn't have imagined just how much of an impact that it's had, because I do it because I love it. Um, and it's a running joke with my husband about how many clothes I have. It's use them or lose them, but um, I've had people say to me. I mean, after COVID, I had people say to me, "Oh, I look forward to seeing what you're wearing every week," or I it just makes me smile so much to see and ask me, how many wardrobes do you have, and but I think it did give people a lift, because, especially during COVID, when things were so dark and,
Mhm.
hopeless. And, for me, to be able to go and sing in that beautiful place and know that people could see online, and that was their window to the outside, I thought, I kind of owe it to them to kind of do my little bit. And it stuck. Someone did ask me when Hannah was born, then participates on and off, but someone asked me when Hannah was born, "Oh, you've got your little girl now. Will she dress up too?" I'd say she's waiting for me to pop my clogs so she can get into my wardrobe. She loves my jewelry and my hairbands, and she says she comes in and she goes, "Mama, pretty dress," and she knows what she wants to wear. She's the boss of the house. Um, so that's how it started, actually. And funny enough, you were talking about Emer earlier. Emer was messaging me a couple of days ago. She has a members club, and she was doing a private concert for Valentine's Day. And she sent me a message, and she said she performed a song that we usually do as a duet, "Quando sento che mi ami," when you tell me that you love me.
Oh.
And she was
Wow.
explaining to people that she usually does it with me, and someone piped up in the comments and said, "Oh yes, I love her Sunday style." So I couldn't believe that. I thought, okay, that's amazing. So there you go. So yes, it's become a little kind of identity marker, that people kind of associate it with me. But it's in this world, you do have to kind of not reinvent yourself, but you do have to kind of advocate for yourself and promote yourself. And if that's what people think of when they think of me as opposed to any other soprano, then I'm fine with that.
Yeah, the pandemic really affected a lot of people, including opera
Mhm.
singers. And I know that both uh, Anastasia Lee and I believe Ellen Williams and Nadia Eide and a few of those, they actually performed a
Mhm.
lot of concerts online.
Yeah, I did as
And
well.
yeah, yeah. And by the end of 2021, I know a few of them said, well, I finally am getting offers to perform live. But basically, before then, you're doing it all online. And oh, I was talking
Mhm.
to a Dutch singer, and he says that you should check him out. Uh, his name's Dennis Ayrson. He's a Dutch singer, and he was telling me that he said if he's getting so successful that if the pandemic lasts another 6 months, that would be it for him. He would
Right.
lose it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting phenomena, Chris, because and a lot of the stuff's still up on my YouTube. I need to do a little bit of a tidy up of my YouTube, but I did a lot of concerts online. The difficulty with it is, I think it was wonderful for us to have that artistic outlet during COVID. But the difficulty with
Mhm.
it is it made it so accessible to people and for free that a few people haven't moved on from that. And I find it very difficult. I really try hard to get people in to see the concerts. And I put a lot of work into the concerts, myself and Katrina, that we put on ourselves. And there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears goes into trying to get people to come.
Mhm.
And I mean, I get a lot of comments like, "Oh, sure, I'll just catch it online," you know.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
So and I mean, I'm always very grateful for our audiences, and I would rather that people do tune in than not. In St Mary's, I mean, one of the benefits that we have of the church is that there's a webcam there, and I do say to people, join us, but do leave a tip, or so even the charity concerts that we did for my cousin at Christmas, there was a lot of people tuned in online, and I'm afraid it didn't translate kind of with the donations from people watching online. So that's the difficulty. And I mean, you are grateful for the audiences, but we still do need to make a living as well. So that's the take home from COVID. People are coming out to concerts, but not with the same vigor, not with the same enthusiasm. The numbers, I don't think they really have recovered at all. And where I have got good numbers for concerts, I have really, really, really had to work hard to get
Mm.
to come.
Wow, amazing story. Can you tell us about your experience as a guest soloist with various Irish choral societies and instrumental groups?
Yeah. So it's part of what we do. I often say this to people as when I say to people that I'm a singer or I'm a musician, I always say I'm a musician first, and then I say I'm a classically trained
Mm.
soprano. And of course, the result is always people go, oh, "Wow," because they think the glamour, they think. But I mean, there are a lot of different streams to what we do, or branches, and one of those branches, and this is something that I really enjoy. I really enjoy, and I don't do enough of. I adore being a guest soloist for choral societies or instrumental groups, because you get to stand up there with your peers, you get to stand up there with other musicians, and there's a wonderful sense of community out of that. Sometimes being a performer can be a lonely job in a way, because you're doing a lot of the work behind the scenes, and then you're standing up in front of an audience and you're performing. But to do that with a group behind you, to perform with a choir and to get that sensation of camaraderie and community singing with you, or with an instrumental group, there's nothing more glorious than to perform with an orchestra. That's wonderful. So again, with that, I mean, there's a little bit of work behind the scenes with that. You have to approach the choral societies, you have to send out emails to the different performing groups and kind of say, remember, I'm still here, I'd love to perform with you. So there's a little bit of admin goes into that, but it's a wonderful thing when you do get the opportunity. It's wonderful.
That's true.
We interviewed with Jenny Rollinson recently about your charity single, but you recently told me that it's ready for release. Can you share a little bit of what inspired that and when the date is?
Sure. Yeah. So the charity single, and I've spoken extensively about this. My cousin has motor neuron disease. She was diagnosed 3 years ago. She has, I think, oh, I think that's my kid's home. She was diagnosed 3 years ago. And unfortunately, it's a terminal condition. So she will. Okay, sorry, you're going to say hi? Okay, mom. Mama's doing an interview right now, so will you just go out of the room just for a few minutes until Mama finishes up? Will that be okay? Or you can sit here, but you have to be quiet. Is that okay? Okay. So Hannah's going to stay with me for a second. That's showbiz, folks. Now you just be quiet for a second. You can sit in Mama's knee and Mama talk, okay?
And this charity single's called "You'll Never Walk Alone," right?
It's called "You'll Never Walk Alone." Yes. So basically, I recorded it for my cousin. Sorry. Okay. That's not going to happen. My mom is just finishing a question. Yeah. So it was. I recorded it for the charity. And I'm sorry, this is my husband. You're gonna have to go out, guys. Okay, just for a minute. Mum will be finished in a few minutes. Okay. I think she wants to stay. We'll let her stay. So I recorded the single. It was produced by Ben Rollins. Myself and Katrina did our own arrangement of it, and we set the charity up that people would have to donate in order to get the single.
Yeah, that's why.
That's why. So we made the €10,000 for the charity, which was great. I put in the last few hundred myself.
That's right. That's a bun.
You have to be quiet now, sit down. So now that we've gotten that amount for the charity, now I'm putting it on general release. So on the 28th of February, it'll be available on all platforms. It's our own arrangement of it, and it was recorded with to raise money for the motor neuron disease charities in Northern Ireland and in the Republic of Ireland, and the funds were split equally. So we raised €10,000 total for that.
Wow, that's amazing. And I love that song, "You Never Walk Alone." That's a beautiful song too. Good
Yeah.
choice.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I think it takes into consideration kind of the idea
I saw you my marker.
okay, behind uh, behind the disease and not being able to walk. I know you just, she's going to get markers.
Why?
She's going to get markers to show you. That's what she says. I'm going to show you my markers. I think we might be on borrowed time here, folks. I think we may touch.
Beautiful. What has been your most challenging performance to date, and how did you overcome any obstacles you faced?
Okay, so I'll be fully honest with you. The most challenging performance to date was my brother's funeral in August,
Oh
because
wow.
yeah, he passed away very suddenly with sepsis, and
Oh wow.
yeah, and I had to sing at his funeral. That's what my family wanted, so that was definitely the most challenging thing I've
That's
ever had
tough.
to do.
That's
Yeah.
tough.
So my mum specifically asked me to sing the Bach Uno Ave Maria, and that was tough. That was tough. So, but again, you kind of draw strength from somewhere, and you say, you know, aren't I privileged to be able to do this? So that's it. You kind of draw that strength, and you're able to kind of go on from there. So that's what you do.
Ave Maria, huh?
Hmm.
So there's three versions: Schubert, Bach, or which one did you do?
So, well, there are three kind of very common versions. There's Schubert, Bach Uno, and Caccini. So it's the Bach Uno,
Mhm.
which actually I find the most difficult. But yeah, that's the one
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wanted. So
definitely. That's definitely difficult.
Yeah. So your album, I guess, Uru, um, features some beautiful Irish music. Can you tell us the inspiration behind it?
well, Uru in Gaeilge in Irish means uh, oh sorry, I've forgotten the word. Eclipse. Eclipse. So
Ah,
it's for myself and Katrina, we both come from a classical background, but we are so deeply entrenched in our sense of nationalism and being Irish. So you know, we wanted to kind of marry those two kind of things, and we really wanted to kind of do a recording together. So that's where that comes from. We wanted to
ah.
do something classical, but also be true to kind of who we are intrinsically, and so that's why it's the Irish classical kind of settings, folk songs.
Uru.
Yes,
Uh, That's a Gaelic word
yes,
for what?
eclipse.
Eclipse.
Yeah.
So next eclipse, I'll just tell people, you want to go see the Uru outside? The what? The Uru. Look, the Uru.
You might wonder what
I,
you're talking about.
I know. They're like, wow, I'm learning more and more Gaelic words. That's amazing. Um, but you've participated in many master classes with notable figures like Dr. Veronica Dune and Nucia Fossil. How have these experiences shaped your development as an artist?
Veronica Dunn's a very famous, uh, I suppose, musical figure in Ireland. She was a professional singer herself and a teacher, a very prolific teacher. And she passed a few years ago, but her legacy, there's just been some the singing competitions. The Veronica Dunn international singing competition is held every year. It was just held a few weeks ago there. Um, like being able to learn from people like that is incredible. I mean, to have the opportunity to sing in master classes and someone who, has lived a wealth of experience to give you the benefit of that experience is a very humbling thing. So I firmly believe it's important to kind of continue to work on your instrument, to work on your craft, and to learn from others. I think that's very important no matter what your stage of development is. So master classes are a wonderful way to keep in check on that. It's a
Mhm.
very good thing to do.
Wow.
Like when you performed with various choirs such as Anuna, um, how did your experience in those choirs influence your journey as an artist?
Okay, well, I think I kind of touched on it earlier on. Just being able to kind of have the experience of doing so many different aspects of work within the industry. Recording, performing, touring. I think that makes you a better musician because it gives you an understanding for what it entails. Across the board, so it gives you respect for what other people in the industry are doing as well. I think it makes you a much more
Hmm.
well-rounded musician, and I think it gives you a sense of respect as well for what everybody in the industry does. So I think it was wonderful to have had that experience, and I certainly think it shaped me as a musician as well.
Wow.
So, as a singing teacher, what advice would you give our listeners who ins- who inspire to do the genre classical crossover?
I'm sorry, Amy, could you just repeat that there? So as a singing teacher,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, as a singing teacher, what advice would you give our listeners who want to pursue classical crossover music?
Um, from the perspective of a singing teacher, I would say that technique is so important.
Mm,
And interestingly, I have a couple of students who, um, they're finding their vocal identity and they want to kind of sing more pop songs and things. And I'm saying to them, that's wonderful, but your technique still has to be the same. Like you have to study technique, you have to know
mm,
your voice, you have to understand how your voice works before you then start looking at different styles. Certainly, in terms of classical crossover, I would say, your training, you have to have an understanding of how to sing the material. Classical crossover material is quite tricky,
mm,
and technically you have to be very sound to do that. So I would say to anyone who's wanting to pursue that, study your classical songs, study your
mhm,
operatic arias, and do your bit of pop singing too, and then then you can marry both styles. But to have that technique to be able to sing a full classical song or a classical aria, that's important, and that's kind of what you would need to be able to kind of pursue a career, I think, to have that longevity, and make
mhm.
sure that everything's healthy and technically working well.
Yeah, we met your kids. So, do you have any interest in having them pursue music, soprano, tenor?
Well, they both sing and they both love playing about with instruments. Ben's doing music classes. He does a little stage school and he does a little early years music class as well. So as long as they're happy, Chris, as long as they're happy and they're
Mhm,
healthy, absolutely, I'd love them to have some appreciation for music, some you know immersion in music. But as long as they're happy and healthy, that's all I can ask for.
Have you yourself ever thought to reach out and maybe write your own musical, your own opera, or you have any interest in that?
Um, no, I mean, occasionally, I wonder about kind of, playing around with melodies and writing a song or something, but I don't think so. I don't think that's for me. I mean, there are the people that do that are very, very talented at what they do. I love arranging things. I frequently will kind of talk to Katrina about doing our own arrangements of things. That's a different thing entirely. But ultimately, for me, it comes down to the performance of it, and that's where my heart is. Um, I don't think writing music is for me.
I want to
mm,
actually expand on Amy's question about the advice you would give our listeners from a singing teacher. Now, coming from a soprano, I want to ask, what advice would you give to aspiring singers who are looking to make a mark in the classical operatic music world?
Well, what I'd say to anyone hoping to pursue music as a career is know the beast. That's what I would say.
Beast.
Do your research. It is not an easy road. It really isn't. And I would say absolutely to anyone that's considering doing it as a profession, get involved at an amateur level. Immerse yourself in different aspects of it so that you're under no illusions, as to what it really entails, how difficult it is to get work, to maintain work. Um, Even at this stage of my career, I have some private students, I have some adult students. I mean, the only reason I'm able to do the interview today now at this time is I had an adult student scheduled who cancelled. So, you know, um, even at this stage of my career, you still have to work with people ultimately at the end of the day. And when you're relying on things for your income, um, you just have to go in with your eyes wide open. I mean, at Christmas, I lost my voice for 3 days, and I lost out on
Mm.
a lot of work because what can you do?
Wow.
You have to be resilient. You have to. This is why I say there's a lot of branches to what I do. I do a bit of teaching, I do my performing, I do my church work, I sing in nursing homes, I sing, there's a lot of different
Wow.
aspects to what I do because, um, for example, the nursing home I sing in, they have an outbreak of norovirus, they're closed for the weekend, I'm not singing there. An adult student cancels, midterm, I'm not teaching now in the schools. So you have to be resilient. You have to um, be able to advocate for yourself and, be able to promote yourself, and also then ultimately the product has to be good. You have to nurture your instrument. You have to be prepared to work on your instrument, just like any other instrumentalist would, and that comes into it too. So it is a wonderful career. It is a wonderfully gratifying career, but it's very, very tough. It's very tough. And I mean, I'm not flying around the world as a solo opera singer. I'm not at that level. I am a full time working musician and I derive all my income from such, but um, there are levels to it, and you have to be open to that. Go in with your eyes open and know the beast.
I know what you're talking about. Renee Fleming actually started out then. Now she's flying around, and Renee Fleming is a well-known name, and she's a pretty good soprano opera singer. But you were mentioning you got to know the beast. I don't think I recall an opera called The Beast. Just kidding. But talking about the beast,
I'm
um,
sure there's something in Italian or German.
the Uru. um, what do you think of artificial intelligence and using it to maybe make opera singers who are no longer with us, or any singers, that allows you to maybe sing an opera alongside David Bowie or sing an opera with the great? What do you think? What do you think of AI?
I think there's a very fine line, and I think morality comes into play.
Mhm.
Ultimately, if you're taking someone's image and using it without their consent, I mean, to a lesser extent, it happens to me a lot. Even singing at mass, or people come in and they take the camera phone out and you can see the light, and you kind of go, there's. I mean, it comes down to. I know AI is a separate thing to that, but if someone has expressly given their consent for something, I mean, while they're alive and they're in a position to do that, that's one thing. But I think if someone has passed and no one is advocating for their image to be protected, um, I don't know if I would be thrilled with that idea. It's a muddy water, It's even I had this conversation with someone recently. The use of AI in the academic arena, it's very difficult because people are using AI to write essays and theses at college level, which is very dangerous and very difficult to actually police. I think obviously technology is a wonderful thing, and we're
Mhm.
you know absolutely our lives are enriched by it, but I think there is a fine line, and um, you would have to ask the question, if that is a project that does happen, where is the money going? Is that going to the person's estate? Is that going to their family? Or is it going to some corporation that is making money off the back of some person who is deceased now and can't advocate for themselves? That's I would have funny feelings about that. Yeah.
Hmm.
Like I asked this before about AI being used for good. Like when Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr they came up with the last Beatles song called "Now and Then," they used AI to extract John Lennon's vocals from the piano
Yeah.
and remove George Harrison's. But they've been working on it since 1980, and then after John Lennon died, George Harrison died in 2002.
Mhm.
Finally, last year, a year and a half, they actually now they have this final song called "Now and Then" using AI, so it can be used for good.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you recall that there was a movie critic by the name of Roger Ebert, and when he had cancer of the esophagus, I think he had to have his voice box removed, and he could no longer speak. So they used AI by using his voice.
Yeah.
So now he was able to use his voice. So it can be used for good
Yeah,
sometimes.
absolutely. And I think in the case of the Beatles, that was obviously something that was long considered, and they went into with their eyes open and everything else. But yeah, I think each case on its merits.
Yeah, I know Amy has the last question, but before she says that one, I'm thinking about when you said that your brother had passed away and how you had to sing at his funeral. So every time you sing and perform, are you doing it in his memory all the time now? Are you singing this for him and doing this for him? Was your whole
Um,
attitude, emotions change?
I mean, it's I wouldn't say every time I perform that I'm doing that. For him. I mean, I'm constantly aware of you know kind of missing him, or that's constantly in the back of my mind anyway. But I mean, because singing is what I do, and it's my career and my passion and my hobby and my everything. you know I do it, and I do it anyway. But no, I mean, certain things will I will think of him in certain things that I would associate with him, you know
Mhm.
so
Yeah,
it wouldn't be all the time, but yeah.
yeah, that's terrible.
So are there any artists that have influenced your career?
Well, certainly when I was young, and I was first listening to Sarah Brightman,
Oh
that was
yeah.
what I wanted.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, Sarah Brightman would have been one of the first, and then from an operatic sense, I mean, listening to Maria Callas and the great Enrique Caruso, people like that, Michael Ball, um, you know,
How about Michael Crawford?
oh, Michael Crawford,
Yeah,
incredible, yeah,
he's
incredible, yeah.
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, so people like that, they would have been so inspirational for me. Um, they would have been the first kind of artists that I would have listened to and kind of thought, wow, I wish I could do that. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Katrina. I really appreciated this interview. Everyone, all of her links will be down below. Thank you so much, Amy Sawyer, my co host,
You're
once again.
welcome.
And she loves
Thank you for having
interviewing.
me.
You're very welcome. And she loves interviewing sopranos, mezzo sopranos with. I always make sure she's there. And I'm going to get her to choose the third one that she's going to do. So we'll discuss that later. Thank you, Katrina, for sharing your
Thank you very
incredible
much.
journey and insights with us. It's been an absolute pleasure to learn about your remarkable career and experiences. And to all our viewers out there, we hope you enjoyed this interview and feel inspired by Katrina's dedication, passion for music. And be sure to like and subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much, Katrina, for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy, for being my co host today. We're going to end the stream.
You're welcome.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye,
Bye.
Bye.
Katrina.